There's a silence that falls over Hollywood sometimes, a quiet hush that signifies more than just the end of a career, or even the end of a life. It's the sound of an era closing, a final poignant curtain call for the legends who shaped our memories, who lived larger than life on silver screens and cathode ray tubes. Today, we delve into a truth whispered on newly unsealed family tapes, a truth that casts a new, heartbreaking light on the passing of some of our most beloved figures. These aren't just celebrity deaths. They are the final fading notes of an entire symphony of Hollywood. These were the last of the true movie stars, TV idols, and icons we grew up with, before social media and streaming changed everything. Their passing feels so tragic because it represents the end of a Hollywood we knew and trusted, a time when stars felt larger than life, leaving us to wonder what private battles they were forced to fight when the cameras stopped rolling. The Carradine family archives have unveiled a secret, not of conspiracy, but of a shared, silent struggle that connected these luminous stars, a quiet tragedy that hollowed them out, one by one. It's a story that begins, unexpectedly, with the man we knew as the ultimate underdog, Robert Carradine. For so many of us, Robert Carradine will forever be etched in our minds as Louis Skolnick, the glasses-wearing, quick-witted leader of the nerds, who, against all odds, triumphed. It was the 1980s, and Revenge of the Nerds wasn't just a movie. It was a cultural phenomenon, a rallying cry for anyone who ever felt like an outsider. Robert embodied that role with such heart and intelligence, making us believe that brains and kindness could truly win the day. He wasn't the muscle-bound hero or the dashing leading man in the traditional sense, but he possessed an undeniable charm, a relatable vulnerability that resonated with millions. His career, spanning decades, showed his versatility, from the gritty, long riders alongside his brothers to television guest spots that always left an impression. He was a working actor, a craftsman, a familiar face who brought a quiet dignity to every role he undertook. But behind that familiar face, and long after the cheers for Louis Skolnick faded, Robert Carradine was locked in a private, decades-long battle against a silent epidemic, one we are only now beginning to understand. The demands of a life in Hollywood, the grueling schedules, the physical toll of even seemingly non-physical roles, began to wear him down. The newly unsealed audio journals, tapes Robert made in his final years, expose a hidden world of chronic pain from old injuries, the relentless pace of production, and a dependency on prescription sleep aids just to function. He speaks of a blackout-inducing cocktail of exhaustion and medication, a desperate attempt to keep pace with the machine, to simply get a night's rest after endless days. This was not the glamorous life we imagined. It was a slow, grinding fade to black. A body pushed to its absolute limits, seeking solace in substances that ultimately betrayed it. The world was told that Robert's near-fatal 2015 highway collision with a semi-truck was a simple accident, a momentary lapse of attention. But the tapes reveal a far more complex and heartbreaking truth. It wasn't just falling asleep at the wheel. Robert's own words paint a picture of a man driven to the brink, his body finally giving out under the weight of those severe life-altering injuries and the cumulative breakdown from years of silent suffering. The coroner's report would cite delayed complications resulting from catastrophic internal and neurological trauma. In layman's terms, his body finally gave out, a direct consequence of that brutal incident. The most gut-wrenching irony, a theme that echoes through these tapes, is that Robert Carradine, the man the world will forever see as Louis Skolnick, the ultimate nerd, a hero who triumphed with his intellect and heart, not his brawn, was in reality broken down by the same brutal, physical price of fame we associate with the action heroes and jocks of his era. His most iconic role was a victory of the mind over muscle, but his final secret tragedy was the body failing under the weight of the very industry that made him a star. It's a haunting revelation, a quiet tragedy that connects him to others we thought we knew so well. Ah, Burt Reynolds. Just saying the name brings a smile to your face, doesn't it? That mischievous grin, the iconic mustache, the effortless cool. He was the epitome of the 1970s and 80s leading man, a charming rogue, a tough guy with a wink. From Deliverance to Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run, Burt was everywhere. He was the #1 box office star for 5 consecutive years, a feat rarely matched. He made it all look so easy, so natural, so undeniably Burt. He was the kind of star who felt like he was just one of us, only with a lot more charisma and a slightly faster car. You know, it's hard to imagine now, in our age of carefully curated celebrity, just how authentic and larger-than-life Burt felt. He was truly one of a kind, a true movie star in every sense of the word. He defined an era of masculinity, a blend of ruggedness and humor that captivated millions. But beneath that iconic swagger, a different story was unfolding. The Carradine tapes don't expose a conspiracy, they expose a condition, the devastating psychological trauma of physical fallibility in men who sold invincibility. For Burt, a catastrophic jaw injury on the set of City Heat in 1984 wasn't just a physical blow. It shattered his persona. The injury led to severe pain, making it difficult to eat, leading to dramatic weight loss, and sparking rumors of a serious illness. More tragically, it triggered a secret, years-long dependency on prescription sedatives and a crippling depression. His body, once the instrument of his fame, had betrayed the tough guy image. He was privately consumed by pain, addiction, and the fear that he could no longer live up to his own legend. The pressure to maintain that image, even as his body failed him, was immense. He was trapped, a prisoner of the very ideal he perfected. Burt Reynolds passed away on September 6, 2018. Officially, the cause was cardiopulmonary arrest, a sudden, final heart attack. But our investigation, informed by the newly contextualized narratives from the Carradine archives, reveals a lifetime of attrition, a body and a spirit eroded by secret that the industry still refuses to acknowledge. The link between Burt's struggle and Robert Carradine's is the shared, silent battle against the shame of being broken in an industry that built them as unbreakable gods, only to discard them as damaged goods. The ultimate irony which echoes through the tapes is that Burt Reynolds, the man who personified effortless cool with a wink and a smile, was imprisoned by the very masculine ideal he perfected. The world bought the fantasy of the unflappable superstar, while the man himself was privately consumed by pain, addiction, and the fear that he could no longer live up to his own legend. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? How often do we truly appreciate our heroes while they are still walking among us, battling their own silent wars? Then there was Olivia Newton-John, a name that evokes sunshine, joy, and the unforgettable sound of a generation. To call her America's sweetheart would be an understatement. From her sparkling transformation in Grease as Sandy, to her roller skating muse in Xanadu, Olivia radiated an infectious optimism and a wholesome beauty that was utterly captivating. Her voice, pure and clear, delivered hit after hit, becoming the soundtrack to countless lives. She was the picture of health, of vitality, of hope, a beacon of positivity in an often turbulent world. For decades, she charmed us with her music, her acting, and her genuine, warm spirit. She seemed almost otherworldly in her grace and resilience, an icon who always faced the world with a radiant smile. Her presence was a comfort, a reminder of simpler, happier times. But behind that dazzling smile, Olivia was engaged in a quiet, generation-defining war against her own body. The secret unveiled by the Carradine family archive is not a hidden pathogen, but a shared, brutal legacy of health crises that defined these lives after the spotlight faded. For Olivia, it was a 30-year public battle with metastatic breast cancer turning her body into a battlefield. She faced it with extraordinary courage and transparency, becoming an advocate for research and a source of inspiration for millions. Yet, even in her openness, the immense personal toll, the constant worry, the physical and emotional exhaustion remained largely her private burden. It was a relentless fight, a testament to her strength, but also a stark reminder of the fragility of even the most luminous of stars. Olivia's passing on August 8, 2022 was officially attributed to metastatic breast cancer, a disease she fought with legendary grace for 3 decades. But the newly contextualized narrative frames this not as a singular cause, but as the final, visible battle in that long, quiet war against the body. Her journey highlights the pattern that the Carradine tapes speak of. Each star, an icon of a simpler time, consumed by a different yet equally relentless internal collapse. Cancer, dependency, or mental health struggles, hidden for years behind a professional smile. The supreme and devastating irony is that these legends built their careers embodying ideals of vitality and invincibility. Olivia was America's sweetheart, the picture of health and hope. The public consumed her images of strength and simple, happy endings, while privately she was locked in a complex, decades-long struggle for survival against the very body that had made her famous. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the hidden battles so many face, even those who seem to have it all. When you think of James Caan, what comes to mind? For many, it's the fierce, volatile Sonny Corleone, tearing through the streets in The Godfather, a raw nerve of emotion and power. But Caan was so much more than that iconic role. He was the soulful quarterback in Brian's Song, the tortured novelist in Misery, and even, in a delightful surprise, Buddy the Elf's human father. He brought a kinetic energy to every performance, a certain unpredictable intensity that made him captivating to watch. He was a force of nature on screen, embodying a gritty realism long before it became commonplace. He was the kind of actor who seemed to live every role, pouring his entire being into the characters he portrayed, earning him a place in the pantheon of Hollywood's most respected and enduring talents. He was a tough guy, yes, but with a palpable vulnerability simmering just beneath the surface. This is where the Carradine tapes find their resonance with James Caan's story. The quiet tragedy wasn't a specific event, but a silent, shared affliction among the titans of 70s masculinity. Robert Carradine's archive exposes a fatal pattern connecting Caan, Burt Reynolds, and others. The secret is that their public-facing tough guy persona was a gilded cage. On tape, a contemporary voice describes their shared struggle. "We sold invincibility, but we bought into it ourselves." Caan himself, in a raw 1990s recording, referred to his body not as a temple, but as a rented mule he'd ridden too hard. The choices made in youth, the fast living, the pressures, the self-medication, weren't isolated events. They were cumulative deposits into a debt that his heart, decades later, would finally be forced to pay in full. His lost weekend with cocaine that stretched into years, the temper, the physical demands of his roles, they all contributed to a slow erosion. James Caan passed away on July 6, 2022. The coroner's report listed myocardial infarction, a heart attack, as the official cause. But the Carradine tapes call it the bill coming due. He was a pioneer of a gritty realism on screen, but off-screen. He was privately self-medicating against the crushing weight of his own myth. The tragedy wasn't just his death. It was the silent, collective understanding that the very lifestyle that made him an icon was also, inevitably, killing him. The most profound irony, captured in a melancholic reflection from what sources identify as Robert Carradine himself, is this. The men who made millions playing characters who could walk away from any explosion, survive any beating, and outrun any consequence, were ultimately consumed by the slow, quiet fallout of their own lives. They built an empire on the myth of the indestructible man, only to discover, in private, that they were as fragile as anyone. The public cheered for the characters they played, never knowing the actors themselves were engaged in a real-life fight for survival they would eventually lose. It's a somber lesson about the true cost of embodying an ideal. Then there was Raquel Welch, a name that for generations was synonymous with breathtaking beauty and undeniable power. From her iconic fur bikini in 1 million years BC to her dazzling turn as a secret agent in Fathom, Raquel wasn't just an actress. She was a global phenomenon, a symbol of strength and allure who redefined what it meant to be a Hollywood star. She commanded attention, exuded confidence, and carved out a career on her own terms in an industry that often tried to define her. Her image was carefully cultivated, a testament to her fierce independence and sharp business acumen. She became an international sex symbol, yet she never allowed herself to be reduced to just that. She was a woman of substance, a performer who worked tirelessly to prove her talent beyond her striking looks. She represented an era when stars truly felt like goddesses, larger than life and seemingly immortal. But the Carradine secret, unearthed from these tapes, isn't a conspiracy. It's a shared, unspoken terror of a generation. The quiet tragedy is the prevalence of neurodegenerative disease among icons who built empires on physical perfection and razor-sharp charisma. The tapes reveal a generation, including Welch, who lived in quiet dread of the one enemy they couldn't outrun, the slow fade of the self. Behind the glamour, Raquel was engaged in a multi-year private war with Alzheimer's disease, a condition that cruelly targeted the very mind and memory that created and sustained her legendary persona. This is the same shadow that fell over Burt Reynolds, whose final years were marked by a steep physical decline and memory loss, and Rita Hayworth, another goddess of the screen, whose own battle with Alzheimer's was tragically misdiagnosed for years. The secret is that their greatest fear wasn't a box office bomb, but a biological one, a betrayal from within. Raquel Welch passed away on February 15, 2023. The official cause was cardiac arrest, but the underlying battle was that insidious disease, a slow erosion of identity and memory that she faced with fierce privacy. The devastating irony is that Raquel Welch, a woman who became a global symbol of eternal youth and physical perfection, a body seemingly immune to the ravages of time, was ultimately consumed from within by a disease that erases time itself. Her identity was fiercely protected for over 50 years, only to be systematically dismantled not by the press or the public, but by the silent internal betrayal of her own mind. The final secret wasn't that the legends would die. It was that they would be forced to watch themselves disappear first. It's a profoundly sad truth, a reminder that even the most formidable spirits are ultimately vulnerable to the quiet cruelties of life. For a generation, Luke Perry was the embodiment of cool, the brooding rebel with a heart of gold. As Dylan McKay on Beverly Hills 90210, he captured the hearts of millions, becoming an instant icon. He was the sensitive bad boy, the one you rooted for, even when he made all the wrong choices. His charm was undeniable, his presence captivating, and he defined a certain kind of teen idol that felt both aspirational and deeply real. Later, he found a new generation of fans as Fred Andrews on Riverdale, proving his enduring appeal and talent. Luke Perry always carried himself with a quiet dignity, a sense of genuine humility despite his immense fame. He was a familiar, comforting presence on our screens, a talent we expected to see for many more years to come. But what we're learning now, what the Carradine family's private history exposes, is that the official report of Luke's passing is just the final sentence in a much longer story. This wasn't a random event. This was the endgame of a silent epidemic that has been stalking Hollywood's leading men for decades. Catastrophic cardiovascular failure. It's not the dramatic scandals that get them. It's the quiet, unrelenting pressure, the decades-long squeeze on the heart, the Carradine tapes. The family's unvarnished history reveal a shared vulnerability, a professional inheritance where the cost of being the man on screen is paid by the heart muscle itself. Robert Carradine himself, through his survival, became an unwilling oracle to a tragedy that has already claimed Luke and others. Luke Perry passed away on March 4, 2019, after suffering a massive ischemic stroke. The official cause told us one thing, but the deeper truth, connected through the shared experiences laid bare by the Carradine archives, points to a pattern. First, we lost Burt Reynolds, the icon of virility, his heart finally giving out after a lifetime of strain. Then, Luke, the picture of youthful strength, his brain starved of blood. They are the tragic bookends of this story, linked by the silent internal toll of their lives. The devastating irony is that Luke Perry, the man who personified the quiet, sensitive rebel, the very opposite of Burt Reynolds' macho bravado, was felled by the exact same invisible enemy. On screen, they were worlds apart. But off-screen, their bodies were trapped in the same narrative, their hearts silently marching toward the same fate. They were adored for playing characters who could withstand anything, but their own bodies couldn't withstand the quiet tragedy of being our legends. It's a profound reminder that even the strongest among us carry hidden burdens. As we close this chapter on these unforgettable lives, a pattern emerges, a quiet tragedy that played out behind the scenes of Hollywood's golden age. These titans, who gave us so much, often paid a price we never saw, a battle against the very bodies and minds that made them famous. The Carradine tapes, now unsealed, offer us not just a glimpse into one family's pain, but a mirror reflecting the hidden struggles of an entire generation of stars. They remind us that fame, while offering immense rewards, can also extract an unimaginable toll. It's a somber truth, but one that deepens our appreciation for their humanity, making their legacies even more poignant. Take care of yourselves and hold your loved ones close. Memory is the only thing that truly lasts forever.